The title of this talk was Dead Words Walking, because I really wanted to be sort of a celebration of words that I wanted to see die, because I think they're hindering us from reaching real change. But then I sort of, I thought it was pretty funny, and then I looked, and I knew the term from the book and the movie, but it became a sort of a bit too morbid and scary. So this is not a death penalty promotion, and I've also put in a few sort of more positive words than the ones that I want to see die, as apart from this very sort of dead words walking meme. So the topic of this presentation is really about words and language, based on the fact that I've seen myself lately thinking a lot about language and the language I use. I've even seen myself sort of harass other people using language that I don't like because I don't think it represents the change that we want to achieve. So basically, I've sort of become an asshole, in arguments with people and conversations and business meetings, telling people not to use that specific language, etc. So that sort of got me thinking that something must have changed within my mind to reach this point. Language is our reduced version of reality, and thereby also becomes our reality. Language is important because it's how we perceive the world. But then, the good part is we can hack it. It's open source, reality is open source, and language is open source. So that also means we can create whatever change we want to achieve just by using specific language or by creating new language or changing the existing meaning of language. So now you're looking at your laptops. This is the first session. What I want you to do for the next 20 minutes is really to think about the language you use and think about whether you have words that you want to see die, go away, or new words that you want to see described, or the words describing sort of a feeling you have that you don't have words describing reality. So what we'll do is I'll go through some words and some observations on them. On each word we'll have a vote. So do you think that my statement, my suggestions for you to whether to use the word or to abandon the use of it is real? And then in the end we'll try and sort of get a mix together of the words you want to see go away that I haven't covered, or words you want to see appear. So the first word is social, which is interesting because when we perceive language as reality, we can see at the social side that the 80s were all about personal computing. They were also all about the personal individual. The 90s were about enterprise computing, solving complex problems that couldn't be solved but making a lot of money with technology. And suddenly we have this emerging theme of this social computing is everything. But as most of us here know, social computing has been there forever. Plato in the 70s, MIT hackers, the chat, etc. Nothing is really new. So, it's interesting that we have this massive shift in perceived reality. That suddenly everything is social, and social work is accepted in business. Sort of a socialistic. Americans wouldn't want to use the word social, but suddenly it's all over. I think my suggestion for you is sort of I think it's a really good word, and I think even though it somewhat becomes meaningless at some point when we social cars, social democracy, let's just apply it to everything is my suggestion for you guys. So what do you say about that? Is that a good idea? Is it sort of, that know about it, or is it a really bad idea? Come on, everyone. Okay, we're somewhat positive on that one, I would say. Okay, another thing about language is, nobody is ever going to look up the definition of the word. So, real language geeks will look up the definition. People used to sort of have a very nuanced vocabulary, and especially sort of in your own language. My language is Danish, so this is my foreign language. Basically my vocabulary sucks pretty badly. So we're achieving a world where we're using all these words, although we've never really been schooled in them or have no idea what they are. So just an example of that could be the word media. Media, the official definition of media is what's between us, which actually is a pretty good sort of good word. It's what's between us. It's about us as people, what connects us. But what it has become is them. Not us, but them. And it also becomes something we consume, not what connects us together. So we have the whole perception that DVDs and movies are important, although they're just a story to connect us together and have a shared experience. So my suggestion here for you guys is that we'll have to fight to take this one back, because I actually think it's a pretty good word. But the current use of it is so bad and sort of keeps us from achieving any level of change. So my suggestion for you guys is we should really put up a fight to take this word back, to belong to being the people's word, what connects us in our communities and as citizens of societies and the world. So what do you say about that? Do you want to fight, or is it just doesn't make any difference at all? Okay. Everyone wants to fight. We'll start a take back the word media fight. Another thing about language is suddenly you have these sort of overarching words that sort of becomes overused in all contexts. My favorite number one example for this is the concept of branding, or just the use of the word brand. Branding used to be something you did for cattle to make sure that it was your cattle. Then it became a consumer protection tool, that you knew you were purchasing the right product because it had a label, it had the brand on it. But suddenly it's we brand something, our brand, not our company, our brand, as if it's two different sides. My personal brand, last week there was a 10-page article in the biggest newspaper in Denmark about personal branding, and I'm like, I'm a person, I'm not a brand. Brand agencies, that's good branding. They branded us. Even branding 2.0 is new. So we have these words where we don't really have vocabulary to describe what we're talking about. Some of it is positioning. I think several times made the argument that branding, the concept of brand doesn't exist. And when I have beer, I'll actually admit that I think it exists somewhat, but it's just a very small thing compared to us as organizations and us as individuals. And there is an external sort of perception of us. But if we have this very conscious kind of designing of what my brand is, instead of just being it, I think it's a really bad thing. So my suggestion to you guys is, we should say really goodbye, and we really didn't enjoy what the word did for us, so we really want to see it go away. So your take on that? We have some very negative ones here. That's interesting. That's a positive. But more negative ones than usual. Okay. Other concepts are sort of when words become totally empty reality, totally easy reality. And my favorite word for this is I made sure to put in the trademark. Okay, I was a child sort of the internet age. I started my first, I got online at 14, 13, whatever. Started my first company when I was 17. And then sort of in year 2000, 2001, I was like, I get done, the 1968, the summer of happiness, where we use technology to do something interesting, and basically got fucked up by big capital and distorted my mind and a whole generation. And I thought, I started blogging and started doing all these things, all that there wasn't any money and all that, and I thought, we're really onto something here. But then this word appeared, which really has no meaning at all. It's dreamt up by a chief marketing officer of a conference organizer. Not even O'Reilly. It's dreamt up by a publicly NASDAQ-traded chief marketing officer that wanted to have a very expensive conference so they could make a lot of money. And they saw that somewhat was happening. It doesn't mean anything. And also, it's become adopted as this easy reality. Who doesn't want to be Web 2.0? My dad could be Web 2.0, even though he doesn't understand shit of anything of this. His company could be a Web 2.0 company, because it doesn't mean anything. And I'm not talking about Mr. Tim O'Reilly's good definition of the interesting means, etc., but I'm talking about the usage of it. So, this is venture capital, Silicon Valley, high, it doesn't do anything for us in Europe. But we don't have other words, which I guess is the real problem. Is it the participatory age? Is it we need words that describe deeper stuff than just commercial bullshit, exit, venture capital bullshit. So, my verdict on this one is, how interesting the world would be if we didn't have that, meaningless buzzword that doesn't say us anything but promotes hype and massive aggregation of interest in something that doesn't mean anything. Let's not fuck it up once again. So my suggestion to you guys here is, say goodbye to this one, even, fight very hard to get rid of it. But really, let's get a conversation going on, something that's aligned with the values of the countries like LIFT or EBU or whatever, something that's aligned with us as Europeans, something that can be challenging instead of being what the web was 5 years ago, which is somewhat, what people are investing in, Web 2.0 and all that. So, your take on that. People's verdict. Well, some positive, some neutral, some very positive.
Yeah, it's the web renaissance.
It's the web renaissance. Okay. Okay. Then we have other words. That's blue pill, red pill words, and this word is one that really sort of just have changed my perspective totally. Attribution should probably go to the Clue Train guys and other people. But it's really about the concept of seeing the world as a conversation, as an iterative process of having conversations leading to marketing is conversation, product development is basically conversations. It's more about conversation than whatever pie charts we make about processes. Organizations are conversations. Strategy, reaching a strategy is a conversation. Innovation is conversation, blah blah blah, etc. So really, this word for me, I suddenly see everything as conversation. SHiFT, that's a conversation. Dinner, that's a conversation. Parenting, that's basically sort of a conversation. How do I sort of parent my kids, etc. Democracy, one giant conversation. So this is really kind of a word that just sort of transforms the whole perspective. Where you don't see it as branding or whatever, you just see it as one big conversation. And some companies are figuring this one out. A Danish company 4 years ago merged their product development, customer service, and marketing departments. Because basically they said, we're having conversations with our customers. And they couldn't, when they had a conversation, they couldn't see, is this a product development conversation? Is it a customer service conversation? Or is it a marketing conversation or a selling conversation? It was all just a conversation. So, I'm very bullish on this word. I think it represents real change. So my suggestion is really to promote it. I think it's a key term for the participatory age. The verdict? Everyone vote, come on. Participation. And I don't think we have a single negative. I'm good about that. Okay. Language also comes down to a single word. And he will give Jean-François his Renaissance word here. So, one single word just change the perspective. Renaissance was it's just because of my own experience of using a single word. Renaissance was the theme of reboot. And, we could have made, Web 2.0 hype fest, and, it wouldn't mean anything. But, it's the first time ever for me, I've done reboot 8 times, that a single word sort of transcended and connected all the themes, because it was a simple theme, what's the difference in Renaissance? The rebirth of old ideas in new context, so it isn't hype, it's about reaching back, looking at what was before, a verbal culture, oral culture, tribal societies, which you might see emerging, looking at it sort of with a very deep, longer perspective, and then also kind of, the specific period of Renaissance you see. But it's interesting when you can just put in a single word and see everything changing. So my suggestion on this specific word is, I love it, and I think it's it's a good perspective because it encouraged really long-term thinking compared to the hype fest thinking that's sort of the item you should love. So your verdict on that? Positive. Come on, you'll have to give me a word where you're really negative about what I'm saying. Okay, then we have the concept of framing. Framing is a word where you know, I use it all the time. You know, it's like I had a conversation where when we were you know, she's like a language professor at the Danish university, and it's like, you know, I use the word framing, you know, 40 times in the conversation. But framing is really interesting, and you know, George Lakoff sort of also promoted later by John Stoltz, etc. So the concept of framing, I think, you know, is sort of essential for a language hacker to use and understand the concept of framing. So just a simple example of framing. You know, a girl giving a friend a copy of a CD, doing an interesting playlist, a guy recording a song from the radio, copying a DVD, sharing the memory of an experience, millions of people sharing movies and music. So, you know, attacking this is pretty difficult, what I've listed here, you know. Some of it is bad, you know, criminal making money from duplicating CDs, you know. That's been happening, you know, throughout at all times, you know, interesting that, you know. Spreading of culture across the globe. How do you want to kind of attack this? What you want to do is to frame it. So what the MPAA, the movie industry and the music industry in the US and throughout Western society and sort of this new capitalistic view on intellectual property, framed it as pirates. So they put all this sort of very complex use case of where we actually copy stuff and have been doing it for ages in a box. You know, they framed it as pirates. So, you know, if a kid gives a CD to another kid, he's a pirate, you know. So, concept of framing is really interesting. So suddenly you hack people's perception to be that, you know, a kid doing something kids have been doing for ages, doing mixtape, you know, recording radio, etc., becomes a really bad thing. What's interesting with this specific example is that they even framed it and used the term, so all the kind of rights holders started an anti-pirate bureau in most of the European countries, at least Northern European. Which then some people, you know, hackers, free-spirited people, accepted the framing. Instead of, you know, creating a new framing, they accepted the framing. So they started the Pirate Bureau, a sort of a protection tool for pirates. And then they created the Pirate Bay, which is, you know, a site where you download illegal stuff. And, you know, then we, you know, now in Sweden and in Germany, we see the emergence of pirate parties, you know, political parties that actually are named the Pirate Party, you know. So we have this pirate movement where it's like, you know, we could call this the sharing culture, you know, the free culture movement, the copy movement, you know, but we've accepted their framing, you know, and I've discussed this several times with all these Pirate Bureau people, and they're like, you know, it's neat, we hacked them because we used the term, but it's like, nah, you don't understand the concept of framing. So my suggestion here is that we don't accept this framing of us people as being pirates, you know, that we encourage this and try and figure out how to create this culture instead of accepting the framing of pirates. Your verdict? Some neutral, interesting, some negative, interesting. Okay, you know, words also connotate deep values. So we have the word of consumer, which is sort of the word of the last century, basically. You know, Jeremy Kalski coined this great definition that allowed gullets to live only to gulp products and grab cash. You know, take it in at some point and get it out the other way. You know, I can't, you know, what sort of the values of people that, you know, seeing the world as people that consume. I'm not an individual, I'm a consumer. And this has transcended even, you know, the product, the commercial industry, you know, political parties see us as consumers of messages. You know, so my suggestion here is, you know, really goodbye and don't come back, we don't want to see you again ever. Your verdict on that? Somewhat positive, some negative. Okay, language is also massive reduction of complexity. So, Individual, amateur, collective, co-created, participatory, bottom-up, edge-created words, ideas, photos, pictures, videos, stories, experience, etc. becomes user-generated content. And apart from the deep sort of disturbed values of the use and of the concept of user-generated content, you know, it's users, you know, we're not participants, we're users of somebody else. We generate stuff, you know, we don't create stuff, and it's content. So I think it's a really bad term, but it's also a great example of reducing extreme complexity to something that fits the view of a sort of a producer culture, of a sort of a commercial culture. So a simple suggestion here, goodbye and don't come back. Verdict. What's positive, a lot of neutral ones there. Okay. We also see that we're in an interesting time, sort of where we have this sort of global hyper-accelerated distribution of words or emergence of vocabulary and language. An example could be the term podcasting. I usually use the story of podcasting in my presentations in Denmark, and the interesting thing is that more than 80% of people know what podcasting is. You know, I'm like, whoa. You know, nobody knows what blogging and wikis, etc., but everybody knows what podcasting is. So, you know, what's interesting about podcasting is that, you know, from Dave Weiner, you know, I had conversations with Adam Curry, and, you know, 2001, you know, this never took off at any point because we didn't have words to describe what was happening. You know, RSS subscriptions with attachments, you know, is not a sexy, fancy word to describe it. So we created this sort of, or Ben Hammersley, I recall, probably is the guy who coined it, term podcasting, which really sort of is a bridge word because it's sort of not that progressive. It's the iPod meme, it's the broadcast meme brought together. What's interesting was that, you know, from when Hammersley coined it, I think it was like 3 months, it was in the New York Times, etc. But, you know, what's interesting that podcasting, which really originated as being people creating stuff, you know, sort of, you know, creation culture, people stopping just consuming stuff, but really creating your own podcast, your own media and all that, you know, really, you know, totally became about massive consumption of content from big broadcasters, which also is the reason why 80% of people know it, because it fits the worldviews of a broadcaster, that they'll just podcast their content to consumers. So my suggestion here is that we fight for it to sort of be more challenging, to really be about individuals starting to publish and participate, and not just about consumption of MP3 files or MP4 files or whatever it is from big broadcasters. Your verdict on that?
Able is doing it. Because it's a trademark of it.
Yeah, there's the trademark debate now, etc. Right. Okay, language is also collective co-creation, both in terms of how we create language and how we distribute it. You know, it's probably the single most wild example of no sort of, you know, top-down body, you know, telling us what language to use, but massive co-creation, you know, wisdom of the crowds, whatever wisdom. So an interesting example could be the word weblog, which, you know, originated as sort of being a, you know, Joan Barker's list of links, and, you know, adopted by other people, shortened by Peter Manhoff, who will be speaking today as a blog. You know, but it's interesting that with the web and sort of all the conversations, we can really see the emergence of new vocabulary. And it's also an important point about, you know, creating new vocabulary to achieve new change. So, you know, basically weblogs have been around forever, but I didn't want to have, you know, I never wanted to have a personal homepage, because that was something about having a photo of your kid and, you know, your bicycle or something, which really never connected with me, at least. So it's an interesting sort of example of co-created terms that's really not owned by industry, it's not owned by companies, but it's, you know, this emerging meme that suddenly has, you know, 30% sort of level of people knowing these terms across the Western societies. You know, some people say blah blah, I'm tired of hearing about weblogs, I'm too at some points, but I think it's a really important word because it, you know, it creates a new frame, it opens up. But let's fight to keep it, you know, keep it pure, to keep it meaning something, and not, you know, just being, you know, a tool for big corporations or media or whatever, but really keep it core. So, suggestion here is, you know, we should love it, but try and sort of be a bit more nuanced of how we use the term. Yeah. Easy one, I know. Okay, what's interesting about words is also sort of the cycles, adaptation cycles of the words. Innovation is a weird word. I probably used it, many years, probably. I can't even recall. But suddenly, at least in Northern Europe, there's a massive hype about it. It's such an extreme level that all politicians will talk about innovation. Even though nobody really, all the people that do innovation don't use the term because they usually call it creating or creative stuff, or they're not so conscious about the use of the word, but we should all be innovative. And it also, still sort of represents sort of a top-down, industrial approach to how we create things. So an interesting example is I googled the word innovation. I used Google image search to the first, the highest ranking photo is an automatic distribution machine for bakery or packaging cakes. That's really what the society we want to achieve. That's societies that creates cake packaging machines. That's the icon of the new era. Then I googled the word creation, which I really think has deeper meaning and really connects with us as being something about creating and not something about big companies innovating. And I got this beautiful, which actually the creation of Adam photo, which as far as Ben Hammersley informs me, also was the first photo that Michelangelo ever painted, where he just he got the assignment and told the Pope, yeah, I can paint. And he had never done painting before. In 6 months, he did this beautiful masterpiece of sort of Western painting visual culture. So I really, I'm sort of, innovation is a. Why use the word when we have anything else? I don't really understand this word. So my suggestion here is sort of, can it be changed to something more interesting? Something that isn't just about big companies innovating, but sort of really about us innovating or creating as societies. So I'm sort of, I like the word creation, but still, there's such a massive hype in innovation, and it might achieve something good. Should I use the word innovation? Is it a good term to promote? Should I use it in my daily vocabulary? Your verdict, should I use it or should I get rid of it? It's a very negative response to the word innovation. Interesting. Sorry? My suggestion is I should rephrase it. Should I use the term innovation? Is it a term I should use in my daily work? Or should I say, we need a better word? I want to promote the use of the word by using it. Yeah. I'm like, difficult. It's also interesting with words that we have very sort of extreme word battles. And this is an interesting area where we have the whole concept of connecting the physical worlds, objects and things with the digital world, always on, etc. All this. What even the people promoting these terms themselves sort of calls a battle of words to emerge. So we have, the spine word, which is Gibson's. Bruce Sterling's word, sorry. Then we have Julian Bleeger's blockject word, which sort of is the merge of a blog post and an object. And then we sort of have the more broad-reaching Internet of Things. So this is sort of interesting, where these three sort of people, they themselves realize we have a word battle here. We have a battle for the best word to emerge, the ones that create the most meaning for people. So what's your verdict? I have no idea. But what word do you connect with? Spine? Is that a good word? Blockject? Good word? Internet of Things? Oh, okay. I see there's a reason why this battle hasn't been decided, because it's probably not the right words, but it's an interesting concept where the players themselves realize that we're in a fight for fun, but we're sort of in a fight for the best ideas to emerge, the best words to emerge. Another area is sort of the corporatization of language and thereby culture. In the blogging sphere, we have all these wonderful concepts. I have my weblog, we have the blogosphere, I'm a blogger, I'm blogging this, I have a blog post. But in a lot of areas, a lot of sort of other areas, and especially in sort of the Web 2.0 hype field, we suddenly have these sort of, my MySpace profile. The photos aren't on the net or in the photosphere, they're on Flickr. There's not a concept of video sphere or video sharing, it's YouTube. Or this photo is from Flickr. The photo is from somebody using a tool called Flickr. So we have this massive corporatization of the vocabularies we use here, which also leads to massive centralization where these sites really emerge. And it's probably something to do with hype cycles, that these things emerge so quickly that we really don't have sort of a grassroots period where we have sort of the vocabulary to emerge. So my suggestion here is to fight this very hard, because this is the old paradigms where, I use MSN or, I don't search for things, I Google things, and, the photos, it's the YouTube revolution, it's not the video sharing revolution. It's not the blogosphere, it's MySpace. It's something that one company can own, they can own the people. So my suggestion here is to fight this very hard and really to get a conversation going on creating new words to describe these areas, photosphere, videosphere, whatever, video sharing, whatever you want to use the terms. Pretty positive, couple of negative ones.
Can you please explain again when should we give our thumbs up? Because I think there's some,
thumbs up if you
I had some confusion because when you show a word that I dislike, I thumbs down, my thumb goes down. So
the meaning was here that if you think the statement that we should fight this corporatization of the words, then you should have your thumbs up. If you think we should fight it.
Okay, thank you very much.
It might have all the votes have been negative, really.
I like the word because it represents location.
Yeah.
And it's easy that way.
Yeah, but is a location a company, or is it the commons, is it society? No. Okay, so to sum it up, we're reaching way over time here. First we define the words, and then the words define us, which means we as language hackers should be very conscious about the words we use in our daily life. Redefining language is essential in terms of process and perspective. New language is often old language, but it's a lot harder to fight to shift the terms of existing language. In Europe, we have some real sort of battles or struggles in terms of localizing words to create change. We need to find, the equivalent of the sharing paradigms, in local languages that makes meaning. Is that what's going to take it to a broader level? It's a tough battle. It also seems that a lot of language is still missing or needs to be rediscovered because it exists but nobody's using it to mirror this complex reality we have. So we have a massive reduction in language that has led to massive centralization and a sort of lack of perspective. So the language hacker ethic would be that your language should be the change you want to achieve. So on a daily basis, if don't use words that you really don't connect with and don't represent some change you want to achieve. And it's all about the details, about what you write, about the presentations you do, what you blog about. Is there better terms that really represents what you want to achieve as change and to describe the complex reality you see. So very quickly, because I think we're running over time. Ideas. What have you been thinking? Are there words you'd like to see go away? Really hard that would really achieve change if we could see them go away and see